A mother was dying in her son's arms, and nobody in the room could save her, except the waitress with the coffee pot. But if she helped, they'd send her to prison. It was 2:47 a.m. when Nikolai Volkov kicked open the diner door, carrying his mother like a broken doll. Blood poured from her legs. Her screams cut through the night like knives. And the sound, God, the sound, bone scraping against bone with every breath she took. Somebody help, please. My mother's dying. His voice cracked, raw, desperate. This was a man worth $7 billion, and his money meant nothing. Power meant nothing. In this frozen moment, watching his mother bleed out on a diner floor in Portland, Oregon, Nikolai Volkov was just a terrified son who couldn't save the woman who gave him life. Elena Volkov's legs bent the wrong way. Both of them, twisted, shattered, like someone had taken a hammer to her bones and kept swinging. The three customers inside Sullivan's diner just stared, frozen. The trucker at the counter dropped his fork. The two college kids in the corner booth couldn't look away from the blood spreading across the checkered floor. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, oh my God." Maya Bennett stood 5 feet away, holding a coffee pot, and her entire body went numb. She saw everything. The swelling already ballooning around Elena's knees. The left leg turning from pink to gray, the color of dying tissue. The way Elena's toes on that leg didn't move when they should have. Compartment syndrome, vascular compromise, nerve damage spreading with every passing second. Maya knew exactly what was happening. She knew exactly how to stop it, and that knowledge could destroy her life. Marcus, the night manager, rushed forward with shaking hands. "Sir, I'll call 911. "I already called." Nikolai's eyes were wild, tears cutting through the blood on his face. "The ambulance is stuck in a storm. They said 45 minutes. She doesn't have 45 minutes. He was right. Maya's brain calculated against her will. 90 minutes until permanent damage. 30 minutes since the fall. That left 60 minutes. Maybe less. The left leg was already dying. Mama, hold on. Please hold on." Nikolai lowered his mother onto a booth seat, and Elena's scream ripped through the diner again. Her hands clawed at her legs, trying to stop the pain, but touching them made it worse. So much worse. The coffee pot slipped from Maya's fingers, shattered against the floor. Hot liquid everywhere. She didn't feel it. Her hands started moving on their own, fingers twitching. Surgical gestures she'd spent 3 years trying to forget. Her body remembered what her mind tried to bury. No, don't move. Don't help. Stay invisible. If Maya Bennett stepped forward, if she touched that woman, if she used the skills she'd spent 12 years learning and 3 years hiding, the paramedics would see. They'd ask questions. They'd file reports. Reports that medical boards reviewed. Reports that Dr. Richard Castellano would see. Castellano, the doctor who destroyed her career. The man who fabricated evidence, lied to a medical board, and stole her license because she told the truth about his drug problem. He was a consultant for Oregon's medical board now. If he saw her name on an incident report, if he recognized her technique, he'd come for her again. Criminal charges, practicing medicine without a license, 3 to 5 years in prison. Her brother Jacob was fighting cancer, stage 3. The treatment cost $4,800 every 2 weeks. If Maya went to prison, the payment stopped. The treatment stopped. Jacob would die within months. 3 years she'd been invisible. 3 years serving coffee, taking orders, keeping her surgical hand still. 3 years surviving. But Elena's left leg was turning the color of death. She's dying. The trucker said it out loud, made it real. Right here, right now, she's dying. Nikolai looked up at the strangers around him, his mother's blood on his hands. "Please, somebody, if you know anything, if you can do anything, please." Nobody moved, because here's what nobody in that diner knew. 17 specialists in Moscow examined Elena Volkov. 9 surgeons in New York ran every test, every scan, every treatment. 6 months of searching. $2.3 million spent. Every expert said nothing was structurally wrong with her legs. They were all wrong. And the only person in the world who could see what 26 specialists missed was standing in a puddle of spilled coffee, wearing a stained apron, frozen between saving a stranger's life and protecting her own. Maya Bennett's feet moved. 1 step forward. If I help, they'll know. Prison. Everything lost. 3 years destroyed in 90 seconds. Another step. Elena's lips were turning blue. Before I tell you what happened next, answer me this. Could you step forward knowing it might cost you everything? Could you save a dying stranger when helping them means losing your freedom? Drop your answer below and hit subscribe, because what this waitress saw in those shattered legs, what 26 specialists across 2 continents missed for 6 months, it will leave you speechless. This isn't just a medical mystery. It's a story about invisible people, buried expertise, and the moment when staying silent becomes more dangerous than speaking up. Now watch what happens when a waitress's hands remember they used to save lives. Maya Bennett's apartment was freezing. Not cold, freezing. 52 degrees inside because the radiator died 3 weeks ago and she couldn't afford to fix it. She sat on her mattress on the floor. No bed frame, couldn't afford that either. Wrapped in 2 blankets, counting tips from her double shift. $67.40. Her fingers moved through the crumpled bills and coins, while her phone screen glowed in the darkness. Bank balance. $427.89. The red final notice on her counter said rent was $1,150. Due in 4 days. She was $722.11 short. On the refrigerator held up by a magnet was a hospital bill, the one that never got smaller. $340,000 total debt. Her brother Jacob's cancer treatment. The next payment, $4,800, was due Friday. 3 days away. Maya's hands trembled as she counted the money again. $67.40. It didn't matter how many times she counted. The numbers didn't change. Her fingers moved without thinking. Suturing motions. Phantom surgical gestures she couldn't stop even when she tried. Muscle memory from a life that didn't belong to her anymore. She reached under the mattress and pulled out the anatomy textbook. Gray's Anatomy for Students. Pages worn soft from years of study. Margin notes in 2 languages, English and Russian. Her mother's handwriting mixed with her own. Inside the front cover was a photograph. Maya stared at the young woman in surgical scrubs. 28 years old, confident, smiling. Boston General Hospital ID badge clipped to her collar. Dr. Maya Bennett, orthopedic trauma surgery, resident. That woman was a stranger now. Maya closed the book and shoved it back under the mattress. She couldn't afford to remember who she used to be. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The vinyl booths were cracked. The jukebox played Dolly Parton on repeat. Maya tied her apron and started her shift. 23 orders during breakfast rush. She didn't write a single one down. Didn't need to. Her brain memorized patterns automatically. Table 2 wants eggs over easy, no toast. Table 5 needs decaf, not regular. Table 7 is allergic to dairy. Her hands pour coffee. Her mouth smiled. Her mind stayed quiet. Mr. Patterson limped through the door at 8:30 like he did every morning. 72 years old. Retired fisherman. Friendly smile. Maya watched his gait. Left shoulder dropped 3 inches lower than right. Limited range of motion when he reached for the menu. Compensating with his right arm for tasks his left should handle. Rotator cuff tear. Supraspinatus involvement. Needs surgical intervention within 6 weeks or permanent loss of function. She said nothing. Poured his coffee. Smiled. The usual, Mr. Patterson. You know me too well, Maya. If only he knew how well. During her break, Maya opened her locker. On the top shelf was her mother's surgical watch, silver, worn, engraved on the back, to Dr. Irina Bennett, 25-year service, Moscow Medical Institute. Her mother had worn that watch through thousands of surgeries, had taught Maya that healing wasn't about certificates or licenses. It was about having the courage to act when someone needed you. Underneath the watch was a folder. Newspaper clippings, court documents, medical board transcripts, Dr. Richard Castellano's name circled in red pen over and over and over. The man who destroyed her. Maya closed the locker before anyone saw. Some things needed to stay hidden. Some wounds never healed. She had 6 hours left in her shift. Then she'd go home to her freezing apartment, count money that would never be enough, and try not to remember what her hands used to do. Nikolai Volkov stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, watching snow bury Portland. He wore a Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people earned in 6 months. A Patek Philippe watch on his wrist worth enough to buy a house. $7.2 billion in the bank. None of it mattered. Nikolai Teslushich-Menya? His mother's voice. Tired, pained. He turned. Elena Volkov sat in the leather chair by the window, her gray hair in a perfect bun, wearing a Chanel dress that couldn't hide the way she moved, slowly, carefully. Like every step cost her something. "I'm listening, Mama. I'm always listening." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You're worrying. You're always worrying." For 6 months, he'd watched his mother fade. Not dying? The doctors were clear about that. Nothing terminal. Nothing life-threatening. Just pain. Constant. Relentless. Bilateral leg pain that made her wince when she stood, gasp when she walked, cry when she thought he wasn't watching. 17 specialists in Moscow. 9 surgeons in New York. 2 weeks in Portland consulting with Dr. Marcus Thorne at Providence Portland Medical Center. MRIs, CT scans, nerve conduction studies, X-rays from every angle. $2.3 million in medical bills. Every single doctor said the same thing. There's nothing structurally wrong. The pain is likely psychosomatic, stress-related, perhaps grief from your husband's death. Nikolai's phone buzzed. His business partner. He stepped into the bedroom to take the call. "Nikolai, the board needs a decision on the Seattle acquisition." "Not now. The deadline is—" "I said not now." His voice was sharp. "I brought my mother to America because Russian doctors failed. American doctors are failing. Everyone keeps telling me there's nothing wrong. But I watch her suffer every single day. My mother doesn't imagine pain. There's something they're missing." He ended the call. Through the window, he saw an elderly man huddled in the hotel entrance. Homeless, military jacket too thin for the storm, shaking from cold. Nikolai grabbed his scarf and walked outside. The man looked up, startled. "Sir, my father served in Afghanistan." Nikolai pulled out his wallet, handed the man $500 bills, and wrapped his own scarf around the man's neck. "Please, find somewhere warm tonight." The man's eyes filled with tears. "God bless you, sir." No cameras, no performance, just genuine warmth in Nikolai's voice. Because Nikolai knew what it meant to be powerless. Right now, with all his billions, he couldn't help the person who mattered most. His father died 2 years ago. His mother was the only family he had left, and he was terrified of losing her. When he returned to the suite, Elena was standing, walking toward the bathroom. "Mama, let me help." "I can walk to the bathroom, Nikolai. I'm not an invalid." 3 steps, 4, 5. Then her left leg buckled, not slowly, suddenly, like someone cut the strings, holding her up. She fell. 14 marble steps, her body tumbling, bone hitting stone, the sound of something breaking. Her screams. Nikolai ran, slid down the stairs, his hands shaking as he reached her. Blood. Her legs bent wrong. Both of them. She was gasping, crying, trying to speak, but pain stole her words. He called 911, hands trembling so badly he could barely hold the phone. 45-minute delay due to the storm, sir. We're doing our best. 45 minutes. The hospital was 12 minutes away by car. The ambulance was 45 minutes. She didn't have 45 minutes. Nikolai scooped his mother into his arms, ran to the elevator, to his Mercedes in the garage. But halfway down the block, through sheets of snow, he saw lights. Sullivan's Diner, open sign glowing. Closest building, people inside. Maybe someone could help. He kicked the door open and carried his dying mother inside. Maya's feet moved before her mind gave permission. 3 steps forward. Then she froze again. 2 voices screamed inside her head. Voice 1, survival. Walk away. You rebuilt your life for 3 years. Your brother needs you alive and free. Prison destroys everything. Jacob dies if you go to prison. Voice 2, healer. You took an oath. She has 90 minutes before permanent damage. No one else in this room can save her. You're a doctor. Act like one. Her hands trembled. Cold sweat ran down her spine. Metallic taste of fear flooded her mouth. Elena's scream cut through the diner again. The left leg was completely gray now. Dying tissue. Minutes away from permanent nerve death. Later, Maya would wonder if she ever really had a choice at all. But in that moment, her body moved before her mind could stop it. She dropped to her knees beside the booth. Ma'am, can you hear me? Maya's voice was steady, calm, the voice of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Elena's wild eyes found hers, nodded. Maya's hands moved with surgical precision. No hesitation. No wasted motion. She palpated the fracture sites, both knees, both lower legs. Visual diagnosis confirmed what she'd seen from across the room. Bilateral tibial plateau fractures. Probable fibular involvement on both sides. Left leg showing compartment syndrome. Tissue swelling. Color change from pink to pale gray. Time window closing. The medical terminology slipped out unconsciously. Words she'd spent 3 years not saying. Now they poured out like water through a broken dam. She checked pulse points. Dorsalis pedis pulse weak on left side. Compartment pressure building. Fasciotomy window closing. We have maybe 20 minutes before permanent damage. Marcus rushed over. Maya, what are you doing? We need to wait for the ambulance. Maya's head snapped up. Her voice cut like a scalpel. Sharp. Absolute authority. Step back. Give me space. Someone get me the first aid kit, clean towels, and 2 metal shelf brackets from storage room. Now, everyone froze. The college kids. The trucker. Marcus. The waitress was giving orders like a surgeon. Nikolai stared at her. Who are you? Maya didn't answer. Metal brackets. Storage room. Move. Marcus ran. Maya worked fast. The first aid kit appeared. She ripped it open, pulled out rubbing alcohol, gauze, medical tape. Marcus returned with 2 metal shelf brackets. 8 inches long, L-shaped. What are you? Nikolai started. I'm stabilizing her legs so the bones don't shift and sever the arteries. If they shift, she bleeds out internally. Do you want me to explain, or do you want me to save her? He went silent. Maya sanitized the metal brackets with rubbing alcohol, grabbed clean cloth napkins from a table, duct tape from a kitchen. She was improvising an external fixation device using diner supplies. Her hands didn't shake anymore. They moved with focused intensity. Muscle memory taking over. She aligned Elena's left leg first, the dying one. Gently, firmly, she applied traction, pulling the bone fragments back into anatomical position. Elena screamed, then passed out from the pain. Better. Unconscious was better. Maya positioned the metal brackets along either side of the leg, wrapped cloth napkins around them for padding, secured everything with duct tape to create traction and prevent further vascular damage. Nikolai watched astonished. You're doing surgery with duct tape? I'm preventing your mother from losing her leg. Be quiet. She moved to the right leg. Same process. Align, stabilize, secure. 15 minutes later, both legs were mobilized in makeshift external fixation devices. Not perfect, not surgical grade, but enough to prevent catastrophic vascular collapse until the ambulance arrived. Maya checked pulse points again. Left foot was pink again. Blood flow restored. She sat back on her heels, breathing hard. The ambulance finally pulled up. 2 paramedics rushed inside. The lead name tag said Jake Morrison. Stopped when he saw Elena's legs. Who did this stabilization? Maya stood slowly. I did. I have EMT training. Basic emergency response. Jake knelt beside Elena, examining Maya's work. His eyes narrowed. This isn't basic. This is advanced trauma procedure. Improvised external fixation. Perfect anatomical alignment. You're a waitress. Maya's stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. I took some courses. A long time ago. Jake looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Well, whatever courses you took, you saved this woman's leg. Maybe her life. We'll take it from here. As the paramedics loaded Elena onto a stretcher, Nikolai grabbed Maya's hand, pressed his business card into her palm with trembling fingers. Thank you. Whatever you did, whoever you are, you saved my mother's life. I owe you everything. Maya pulled her hand back. I'm just glad I could help. Please, go with her. She watched the ambulance drive away. Red lights disappearing into the snow. Marcus touched her shoulder. Maya, that was incredible. How did you? I need to go clean up. She walked to the storage room, closed the door, slid down against it. Her hands were shaking again because the paramedic would file an incident report with her name, and incident reports were reviewed by medical boards. Everything just changed, and Maya had no idea she'd saved a life or destroyed her own. Maya sat on the storage room floor back against the door, hands shaking so violently she had to hold them together to make them stop. The adrenaline was gone. Now there was only fear. A knock. Maya? Marcus's voice. Gentle, concerned. She couldn't answer. The door opened. Marcus stepped inside, closed it behind him. Maya, the paramedic, Jake. He asked for your contact information. He said he needs to include you in the incident report. Hospital protocol. The room tilted. Incident reports. Medical boards reviewed incident reports. They tracked anyone performing medical procedures. They looked for patterns. For unlicensed practitioners. Maya, are you okay? You're pale. I'm fine. Her voice didn't sound fine. Just tell him Maya, Bennett. He has the diner's address. Marcus studied her face. What you did out there, that wasn't EMT training. That was something else. I need to finish my shift. Your shift ended 20 minutes ago. Had it? Time felt broken. 3 years ago. Boston General Hospital. Board hearing room with fluorescent lights and cheap carpet. Maya Bennett, 28 years old, stood in front of 7 board members. Her career in their hands. Dr. Richard Castellano sat at the presenter's table. Senior orthopedic surgeon. Respected. Connected. Lying through his teeth. The evidence is extensive, Castellano said, sliding folders across the table. 4 patient complaints. 3 surgical complications directly attributed to Dr. Bennett's negligence. A pattern of reckless behavior. Maya's voice shook. Those complaints are fabricated. Dr. Castellano created them because I reported his substance abuse to hospital administration. He performed surgery while impaired. I filed a formal complaint. 2 weeks later, these accusations appeared. Jonathan Reeves, hospital administrator, didn't even look at her. Dr. Castellano is a 20-year veteran of this institution. His record is impeccable. his toxicology reports show. Those reports are sealed medical records. Castellano interrupted smoothly. Dr. Bennett is grasping at conspiracy theories to deflect from her own incompetence. The board voted 6-1. Her medical license permanently revoked. Maya stood there, watching her life end. The evidence is clear, Reeves said. Dr. Bennett poses unacceptable risk to patients. She wanted to scream. The evidence was fabricated, but nobody listened. Nobody investigated. They believed Castellano because he wore expensive suits and had powerful friends. She was just a resident who told the truth. Maya changed her legal name 3 years ago, moved across the country, became invisible. If caught practicing medicine without a license, Class C felony, 3 to 5 years in prison minimum. Her brother Jacob was fighting stage 3 cancer. If Maya went to prison, his treatment stopped. He'd be dead within months. She saved a woman's life tonight, and it might have just killed her brother. Maya just crossed a line there's no coming back from. Before we continue, I need to know, in her position, would you have walked away to protect yourself? Or would you have helped knowing it might destroy everything you've rebuilt? Be honest, there's no right answer. But your choice says something about how you navigate impossible moral dilemmas. Drop it below. And here's why you need to subscribe. Nikolai is about to discover who Maya really is. And when he does, the confrontation will challenge everything you think you know about justice. If you're not subscribed, YouTube might not show you what happens next. And trust me, you don't want to miss the moment Maya's past and present collide. Maya couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't stop her hands from shaking. She sat on her mattress, laptop open, searching Nikolai Volkov. Forbes profile loaded first. 38 years old, tech billionaire, $7.2 billion net worth from cybersecurity software empire. Known for ruthless business tactics, but devoted to his mother Elena. She clicked another link. Medical article from 2 months ago. Elena Volkov's mystery illness. Billionaire's mother suffers chronic pain for 6 months. Specialist baffled. Maya read every word. 17 specialists in Moscow. 9 surgeons in New York. 2 weeks consulting with Dr. Marcus Thorne at Providence Portland Medical Center. $2.3 million spent on medical consultations. MRIs, CT scans, nerve conduction studies. Every doctor said the same thing. Nothing structurally wrong. Pain likely psychosomatic. Stress-related. Grief from her husband's death. Maya stared at the article. Bilateral leg pain. Progressive weakness. Sudden catastrophic failure. That wasn't psychosomatic. That was structural. She closed her eyes and replayed what she'd seen in the diner. Elena's fractures. The break lines too clean, too specific. Not typical fall fractures. Old injury. Had to be. Stress fractures from previous trauma that never healed properly. Created weakness in the bone structure that doctors dismissed because standard imaging looked normal. The article mentioned it briefly. Minor car accident in Moscow 6 months ago. Fender bender with no apparent injuries. Maya's brain connected dots she didn't want to connect. 6 months ago. That's when Elena's pain started. Right after the accident. The trauma didn't create new fractures. It aggravated old ones. Hairline fractures that had been there for years, maybe decades, invisible on standard imaging. And tonight, catastrophic failure. The weakened bone structure finally gave out completely. 26 specialists missed it because they were looking for acute injury, not chronic progressive damage. Nikolai sat in the surgical waiting room, still wearing his bloodstained suit. Elena was in emergency surgery. Dr. Marcus Thorne repairing the acute fractures from her fall. Standard procedure. She'd survive. But Nikolai couldn't stop thinking about the waitress. Her hands, the way they moved. Too precise, too confident. No hesitation. She performed advanced trauma stabilization using diner supplies like it was second nature. You're a waitress? That's what the paramedic said, suspicion in his voice. Because what Maya did wasn't basic first aid. It was surgical-level intervention. Nikolai pulled out his phone, called his head of security. Find everything about Maya Bennett. Works at Sullivan's Diner, Portland. I need her full background within 30 minutes. 28 minutes later, the report arrived. Nikolai read it twice. Then a third time. Legal name changed 3 years ago. Previous name, Dr. Maya Irina Bennett. Medical license revoked permanently. Gross negligence charges. Boston General Hospital. A doctor. She was a doctor. Nikolai's company acquired the private equity firm that owned Boston General's parent corporation 2 years ago. He had access to hospital records, board hearing transcripts. He pulled the archived video, watched a younger Maya Bennett stand in front of a medical board. Her voice on the recording. Dr. Castellano fabricated these complaints because I reported his substance abuse. I'm being destroyed for telling the truth. Castellano's smooth response. Dr. Bennett is grasping at conspiracy theories to deflect from her own incompetence. Board Administrator Jonathan Reeves. The evidence is clear. Dr. Bennett poses unacceptable risk to patients. Vote. License revoked permanently. Nikolai kept digging. Found sealed investigation files that Castellano had buried. Internal reports. Witness statements. Toxicology results proving Castellano had performed surgeries while impaired. Evidence that Maya Bennett told the truth. Evidence that was suppressed, hidden, ignored. She was scapegoated, destroyed for doing the right thing. And 3 years later, she saved his mother's life using skills the medical board declared too dangerous to use. Nikolai sat back in the waiting room chair. She saved my mother when she had every reason to walk away. Save her knowing it could destroy everything she rebuilt. Because that's who she is. That's what healers do. The system destroyed her for telling the truth 3 years ago. And tonight, she risked everything to save a stranger. Nikolai pulled out Maya's business card. The diner's contact information written on the back in Marcus's handwriting. He had the power to fix this. Access to evidence, resources, connections. The question was, would Maya let him? Maya's phone buzzed during her morning shift. Unknown number. Text message. My mother is asking for you. Room 437. Please come. And her stomach dropped. He knows. He has to know. But Elena asked for her. The woman whose life she saved. Maya couldn't ignore that. Couldn't refuse. She told Marcus she needed to visit someone at the hospital. He didn't ask questions. Room 437 was private. Expensive. Windows overlooking the city. Elena Volkov lay in the bed, heavily medicated. Both legs wrapped in external fixation devices. But her eyes were clear, alert. She saw Maya in the doorway, and her face lit up. You came. Elena reached out her hand. Then in Russian, Spasibo Dorogeya, you saved my life. Maya stepped forward, took her hand, responded in fluent Russian. I'm just glad you're okay. Elena's eyes widened. You speak Russian? You're not just a waitress, are you? Before Maya could answer, the door opened. Nikolai entered. Impeccably dressed, fresh suit, perfect tie. But his eyes were red from no sleep. Dr. Bennett. His voice was calm. Controlled. Or should I say, Maya, we need to talk. Privately. Maya's pulse spiked. Fight or flight. Nowhere to run. Nikolai closed the door. Crossed his arms. Studied her face. I know who you are. Dr. Maya Irina Bennett. Boston General Hospital. Orthopedic trauma surgery. License revoked 3 years ago based on fabricated evidence from Dr. Richard Castellano. Maya's controlled rage erupted. Then you know I saved your mother using skills the medical board declared too dangerous to use. And yet she's alive, walking, because of those dangerous skills. I also know, Nikolai continued quietly, that your license was revoked because you reported Castellano's substance abuse. He fabricated patient complaints, created false evidence, destroyed your career to protect his own. Maya froze. How do you? Nikolai pulled a folder from his briefcase, placed it on the table. My company owns the parent corporation of Boston General. I have access to sealed investigations. This report proves Castellano fabricated everything. Witness statements, toxicology results showing his impairment during surgical procedures. It was buried. Maya's hands trembled as she opened the folder. Pages and pages of evidence. Everything she tried to prove 3 years ago. Everything the board ignored. 3 years. Her voice broke. I lost everything. My career, my savings, my name, and this report existed the whole time. Yes, they knew. The board knew, and she couldn't finish. Nikolai's voice softened. My mother's current surgeon is Dr. Marcus Thorne. He's competent, but he's missing something. The fractures you stabilized last night healed too easily in surgery. There's underlying structural damage he's not seeing. Maya looked up, professional instinct overriding personal pain. I noticed that. The break pattern suggested previous trauma, improperly healed stress, fractures, creating progressive weakness. The car accident in Moscow 6 months ago, Nikolai said. Minor fender bender. But her pain started immediately after. 26 specialists said nothing was structurally wrong. Maya stood, walked to the computer terminal, pulled up Elena's imaging from the hospital system. They were looking for acute injury, but stress fractures don't always show on standard imaging. They're hairline, progressive, create chronic pain that doctors dismiss as psychological when they can't see obvious damage. She zoomed in on the scans. There. See these microfractures? Along the tibial plateau. Both legs. They've been progressing for 6 months, probably longer. Last night's fall wasn't the cause. It was catastrophic failure of already compromised bone structure. Nikolai leaned forward, staring at the screen. Why didn't Thorne see this? Because he wasn't looking for it. He saw acute trauma from a fall, fixed what was broken. But the underlying structural damage is still there. Your mother will heal from this surgery, but the chronic pain will return unless someone repairs the root cause. Silence. Then Nikolai spoke. My mother needs surgery to repair the underlying damage, not just the acute fractures, but the chronic structural issues. Dr. Thorne doesn't see them. You do. I can't. Maya's voice was flat. I don't have a license. If I'm caught practicing medicine, I'll protect you, Nikolai interrupted. I'll handle the legal exposure, but I need you to consult, guide Thorne, anonymously if necessary. Why would you help me? You don't know me. Nikolai's eyes locked onto hers, intense, honest. Because you saved my mother when you had every reason to walk away. Because the system destroyed you for telling the truth. And because I have the power to fix both problems. And I'm choosing to use it. Maya looked at Elena's imaging, saw the damage 26 specialists missed, saw the surgery Elena needed, her healer identity versus self-preservation. If I do this, Maya said slowly, and Castellano finds out, he'll come after me again. He's still practicing, still connected. Then let him come. Nikolai's voice was steel. This time he won't win. Maya stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll help, but not for you. For your mother. She deserves someone who sees the whole picture. Maya worked in secret. For 2 days, she created detailed surgical protocols for Elena's reconstructive procedure, analyzed imaging, researched case studies, wrote encrypted recommendations that Nikolai presented to Dr. Thorne as consultation from specialist colleague. Thorne was skeptical at first, but when he re-examined the imaging and saw the microfractures Maya identified, he followed the protocol. Surgery was scheduled for Friday morning. Then Thursday afternoon, Maya came home to a certified letter taped to her apartment door. Her hands shook as she opened it. Oregon Medical Board. Cease and desist order. Signed, Dr. Richard Castellano, board consultant. Maya's knees gave out. She sat on the floor right there in the hallway, reading. It has come to our attention that you performed medical procedures without a license at Sullivan's Diner on January 18th. You are hereby ordered to cease all medical activity. Failure to comply will result in criminal prosecution. Castellano. He'd relocated from Boston to Portland 6 months ago. He was a consultant for Oregon's Medical Board now. He reviewed the paramedic incident report, saw her name, recognized her stabilization technique, distinctively hers. Then he called Thorne, asked about the anonymous consultation on Elena Volkov's case, recognized Maya's diagnostic style and the surgical recommendations. He found her. Again, Maya's phone rang. Hospital billing department. Ms. Bennett, this is regarding your brother Jacob's account. Unless payment of $4,800 is received by Friday, we'll need to suspend treatment and discharge him. Friday, 2 days away, the same day as Elena's surgery. I'll have it, I promise. She had $427 in the bank. Maya sat on the floor surrounded by medical files, the cease and desist letter, unpaid bills, 3 years of rebuilding, collapsing in 72 hours. The sobs came without warning, ugly, violent, tearing through her body like convulsions. She cried for her career, for her brother dying because she couldn't afford to save him, for the girl she'd been in surgical scrubs before Castellano destroyed everything. She cried for her mother, who taught her that healing hands were a gift from God, then died before seeing what the gift cost her daughter. 7 minutes. She let herself cry for 7 minutes. Then she forced herself to stop. On the floor beside her was her mother's surgical watch, silver, worn, the one thing she kept when she sold everything else. Maya picked it up. Read the inscription in Russian. Healing hands are a gift from God. Use them without fear. Her mother's voice in her memory. Maya, fear is the enemy of healing. When you doubt yourself, remember, your hands know what your mind has forgotten. Maya wiped her eyes, opened her laptop. She needed to know, needed to understand why Elena's injury felt familiar. She called Boston General Archives, waited on hold for 18 minutes. Finally, a clerk answered. I need an emergency room report. 13 years ago. Car accident. Patient names, Rebecca Hartwell and Elena Volkov. That's sealed medical records. I was a physician at Boston General. My employee ID was. Maya rattled off her old credentials. Prayed they hadn't been fully purged from the system. Long pause. Keyboard clicking. I'll email the PDF. Give me your address. 20 minutes later, Maya stared at her screen, hands covering her mouth. Emergency room intake report. Nurse, Irina Bennett. Her mother. Patient Elena Volkov, age 51. Passenger in vehicle. Mother of deceased driver Rebecca Hartwell. Conscious, stable vitals. Noted, possible stress fractures in bilateral tibial plateau region. Recommended follow-up orthopedic consult. Patient declined. Returned to Russia for funeral arrangements. Maya's mother had examined Elena 13 years ago, after the accident that killed Nikolai's wife Rebecca. Her mother documented the fractures. Recommended follow-up. Elena never followed up. The fractures healed wrong. Created progressive weakness. Led to chronic pain that 26 specialists dismissed as psychological because they weren't looking at 13-year-old records. Everything connected. Her mother saw it 13 years ago, and now Maya was the only one who could finish what her mother started. Maya looked at the cease and desist letter, at the hospital bill, at Elena's surgical protocol on her screen. Castellano wanted to destroy her again. The system wanted her to disappear, stay invisible, stay broken. But Elena Volkov deserved to walk without pain, deserved someone who saw the whole picture. I will go to that hospital, Maya whispered to the empty room. I will ensure that surgery is done correctly. If Castellano wants to destroy me again, let him try. But I will not let Elena suffer, because I'm afraid. 6-year-old Maya sat in the waiting room, coloring, when the screaming started. A child, maybe 8 years old, choking. His mother panicking. Everyone frozen, except Maya's mother. Dr. Irina Bennett moved like lightning, positioned herself behind the boy. Heimlich maneuver. 1 thrust. 2. 3. A plastic toy shot from his mouth. The boy gasped, coughed, breathed. Young Maya watched her mother's hands. Calm, decisive, purposeful. Later in the car, Maya asked, Mama, how did you know what to do so fast? Irina smiled. Training practice. And refusing to let fear make you small. Remember this, Dorothea. Healing is not about certificates. It's about having the courage to act when someone needs you. 25 years later, Maya finally understood what her mother meant. Maya texted Nikolai, I'll be in the observation room during surgery. I'll guide corrections through you. If Thorne makes mistakes, you relay my instructions as second opinion from consulting surgeon. His response came immediately. Castellano will be watching. He's on staff here. He'll recognize your approach. I know, but your mother's life matters more than my safety. 3 dots. Then you're extraordinary. Maya didn't respond to that. Before heading to Elena's surgery, Maya visited her brother. Jacob lay in the hospital bed, thin, pale, but conscious. 26 years old. Should have been finishing his master's degree. Instead, he was fighting stage 3 lymphoma. Maya. His voice was weak. I heard about the billing issue. She tried to smile. It's handled. Don't lie to me. His eyes, so much like their mother's, held hers. Maya, don't sacrifice everything for me. I've had a good life. If you need to let me go, never. Maya's voice was fierce. You're going to beat this. Treatment continues Friday. I'll handle the money. She had no idea how, but she promised anyway. Jacob squeezed her hand. You sound like Mama. Good. Maya's plan is brilliant, but she's walking into a situation where she could be arrested the moment she's identified. Before the confrontation, I want to know, do you think she'll win through pure medical skill, through Nikolai's intervention, or through something we haven't seen yet? Drop your prediction below, and here's why you need to subscribe. The next 15 minutes contain 3 revelations that will reframe this entire story. Connections between past and present that will leave you stunned. You think Castellano is the only villain here? You're wrong. Make sure you're subscribed so you will be part of the ending. Because this story doesn't end where you think it does. Now watch what happens when a woman with nothing left to lose walks into a room full of people who destroyed her. Maya stood behind the one-way glass wearing visitor credentials, watching Dr. Marcus Thorne prep Elena Volkov for surgery. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Below in the operating room, surgical lights illuminated Elena's legs, both wrapped in temporary fixation from the emergency procedure 3 days ago. Thorne's team moved with practiced efficiency. Scalpels, retractors, bone saws. Maya's hands itched to be down there, to hold the instruments, to guide the repair herself. But she was invisible up here, hidden behind glass. Safe. Nikolai stood beside her, wireless earpiece tucked discreetly in his ear, ready to relay her instructions to Thorne through the ear microphone as consultation from colleague. Are you ready? He whispered. Maya nodded. She'd guided surgeries before, taught residents, supervised procedures. But never like this. Never while hiding who she was. The observation room door opened. Dr. Richard Castellano walked in. Maya's entire body went cold. 56 years old. Gray hair. Expensive suit under his white coat. He looked exactly the same as the day he destroyed her career. His eyes found her immediately. Shock. Then recognition. Then a slow, cruel smile. Well, well. His voice carried across the observation room. Loud. Deliberately loud. Dr. Bennett. Or should I say, the unlicensed criminal currently practicing medicine in my hospital. Every head in the observation room turned. 6 medical students, 2 nurses, a hospital administrator, all staring at Maya. Castellano gestured to the security guard by the door. Call hospital security. This woman is trespassing and... Dr. Castellano. Nikolai's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stepped forward, positioning himself between Castellano and Maya. Before you continue, you should know I've invited members of the Oregon Medical Board to join us. They're in the building right now, reviewing evidence. Castellano's smile faltered. What evidence? Evidence that you fabricated patient complaints against Dr. Bennett 3 years ago. Evidence that you've practiced surgery while impaired by controlled substances. Evidence that you've systematically destroyed the careers of 14 doctors who threatened to expose you. The color drained from Castellano's face. I need suction here. Dr. Thorne's voice over the intercom. Wait, this bone structure. Maya's attention snapped to the surgery. Thorne had exposed Elena's left tibial plateau, the fracture site from a fall. But as he cleared the tissue, older damage became visible. This isn't right. Thorne's voice tight with concern. There are fracture lines here that aren't on the imaging. Historical damage. The bone structure is more compromised than the scan showed. Elena's bones were riddled with hairline fractures. 13 years of progressive damage. Exactly what Maya predicted. I need consultation, Thorne said. This isn't standard reconstruction. If I repair only the acute fractures, the underlying instability will cause re-injury within months. Nikolai spoke into the microphone connecting to the oar. Stand by, Dr. Thorne. We have expert guidance available. Maya leaned close to Nikolai, speaking quickly into his earpiece. Tell him there's historical fracture pattern from previous trauma. Tell him to check medical records from the car accident. Rebecca Hartwell incident. 13 years ago. Nikolai relayed the message. Below, in the oar, the surgical nurse pulled up hospital archives on the computer screen visible to the entire surgical team. The record appeared. Emergency room intake. 13 years ago. Nurse Irina Bennett, ER intake, patient Elena Volkov. Stress fractures noted bilateral tibial plateau region. Recommended follow-up orthopedic consult. Consult never completed due to patient returning to Russia. Nikolai turned to Maya, his face pale. Your mother treated mine 13 years ago. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. My mother was the ER nurse the night your wife, Rebecca, died in that car accident. She saw the fractures in your mother's legs. She documented them. But Elena left the country before the follow-up. No one else ever looked at those records. Nikolai's hand gripped the observation railing. My wife died that night. My mother was in the passenger seat. I was driving. I swerved to avoid another car, hit a barrier. Rebecca died instantly. My mother survived. But I never knew. I never knew about her injuries. Your mother has been living with progressive stress fractures for 13 years, Maya said softly. They created chronic pain that 26 specialists called psychosomatic because they weren't looking at 13-year-old records. My mother saw it. She documented it. And now I see it. The observation room door opened again. A woman in a business suit entered. Oregon Medical Board investigator. 2 uniformed officers behind her. She walked directly to Castellano. Dr. Richard Castellano, I'm investigator Patricia Chun, Oregon Medical Board. We've completed our review of your patient files. 14 doctors in the past 5 years reported for negligence. all 14 cases involved doctors who filed complaints about your conduct. Castellano's face turned red. This is absurd. This is a setup orchestrated by. We've also obtained toxicology records from surgical dates you were on duty, Chin continued. Positive for controlled substances on 23 occasions. You performed surgeries while impaired, put patients at risk, then destroyed the careers of anyone who tried to stop you. She orchestrated this. Castellano pointed at Maya. She's been working as a waitress for 3 years, and suddenly, Dr. Bennett has been working as a waitress in Portland for 3 years. Chin said flatly. She didn't orchestrate anything. She was a victim. And you've destroyed 13 other careers exactly the same way. You fabricated evidence, coerced witnesses, and used your position to silence anyone who threatened your reputation. The security guard who'd been ready to escort Maya out now stood beside Castellano. Dr. Castellano, you need to come with us. Despite the chaos in the observation room, Maya's focus never left Elena. She leaned into Nikolai's ear, speaking rapid medical instructions. Tell Dr. Thorne to use intercalary bone graft technique for the historical fracture sites. Address the 13-year-old damage first. Create structural stability. Then repair the acute fractures. Otherwise, the healing won't be stable. The bones will fail again. Nikolai relayed every word. Below, in the oar, Thorne listened, then nodded. Understood. We're proceeding with intercalary grafts. The surgery transformed. What should have been a routine fracture repair became a masterclass in complex reconstruction. Thorne worked with Maya's guidance, addressing damage layer by layer, year by year, building structural integrity from the foundation up. The other surgeons in the or exchanged glances. Who is this consultant? One of them asked. This is exceptional surgical planning. 3 hours later, Thorne completed the final suture, removed the surgical drapes, stepped back. Elena's legs, both of them, properly reconstructed. Acute and chronic damage repaired. Bones stabilized with grafts and hardware that would let her walk without pain for the first time in 13 years. Thorne looked up at the observation window. I want to meet whoever provided that consultation. That was extraordinary work. In the observation room, Nikolai turned to Maya. She was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. You did it, he whispered. My mother did it, Maya said. 13 years ago. I just finished what she started. Maya stood in the doorway of Elena's recovery room, uncertain if she should enter. Elena lay in the hospital bed, groggy from anesthesia, but her eyes were open. Nikolai sat beside her, holding her hand. Elena saw Maya. Her face lit up. The waitress. You came. Maya stepped inside slowly, spoke softly in Russian. How are you feeling? Elena's eyes filled with tears. The pain. For the first time in 6 months, the pain is gone. What did they do? Nikolai squeezed his mother's hand. Mama, this woman isn't a waitress. She's Dr. Maya Bennett, one of the finest orthopedic trauma surgeons in America. She guided your surgery today. She's the reason you're going to walk without pain. Elena looked confused. But you served me coffee at the diner. Maya's voice was quiet. I lost my medical license 3 years ago. I was working at the diner because it was all I could do. Lost your license? For what? For telling the truth about a dangerous doctor. The system chose to believe him instead of me. Elena reached for Maya's hand. The truth always finds the light, Dorothea. Always. A knock on the door. Dr. Harrison, hospital administrator, entered with 2 medical board representatives. Dr. Bennett. Harrison's voice was formal but respectful. The board has reviewed your case. Dr. Castellano's evidence against you has been proven fraudulent. Your license revocation is being overturned pending a formal hearing in 30 days. Maya's knees went weak. Nikolai stood, steadied her with a hand on her arm. Harrison continued. Dr. Castellano has been removed from all board positions. His medical license is suspended pending criminal investigation. And Dr. Bennett, we owe you an apology. We're offering you interim emergency medical privileges at Providence, Portland, effective immediately. Maya couldn't speak. 3 years. 3 years of being invisible. And now, Nikolai stepped forward. I'm also wiring funds to cover Dr. Bennett's brother's cancer treatment in full. Every remaining bill, every future treatment, covered. Maya's head snapped toward him. You can't. I can. And I will. Your brother's treatment continues today. Tears spilled down Maya's face. Why? Why are you doing this? Nikolai's voice was gentle. Because you saved my mother when you had every reason to walk away. And because it's the right thing to do. Maya and Nikolai stood behind the observation window, watching Elena work with her physical therapist. Elena stood between parallel bars, gripping them tightly. Then, slowly, carefully, she took a step. Then another. Then another. No wincing. No gasping. No tears of pain. For the first time in 6 months, Elena walked without pain. She looked up at the window, saw Nikolai and Maya watching, and burst into tears of joy. Nikolai's voice was thick with emotion. You gave my mother her life back. The same hands that served coffee saved her from a lifetime of pain. Maya shook her head. I just did what any surgeon would. Nikolai turned to face her, took both her hands in his. No, what you did was risk everything to help a stranger. You defied a system that tried to destroy you. You refused to let fear make you small. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Her mother's words. The same words her mother had spoken to her as a child. I spent 3 days watching you work, Nikolai continued, his eyes intense. Your skill, your courage, your moral clarity. I've met countless people in my life. Powerful, wealthy, famous. But I've never met anyone like you. Nikolai, I'm in love with you. The words came out raw, honest. Not the waitress, not the doctor. You, the woman who saved my mother even when it could have cost you everything. The woman whose mother saved my mother 13 years ago and documented what everyone else dismissed. You see what others miss. And I see you. Maya's breath caught, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what to say. Nikolai smiled, gentle, patient. You don't have to say anything yet. But I need you to know I'm going to make sure you get everything back that was stolen from you. And when you're ready, if you're ready, I'll be here. Through the window, Elena waved at them, still walking, still smiling. Maya squeezed Nikolai's hands. For the first time in 3 years, she believed healing was possible, not just for broken bones, for broken lives too. Maya stood in front of the mirror in the surgical locker room, staring at her reflection. Scrubs, surgical cap, her name embroidered on the chest. Dr. Maya Bennett, orthopedic surgery. She touched the letters with trembling fingers. Real. This was real. The medical board hearing happened 2 weeks ago. Castellano's fabricated evidence formally expunged from a record. Her license fully reinstated. Providence, Portland offered her a position as attending surgeon with a pro bono clinic for uninsured patients. Patients like the ones she'd been 3 weeks ago. Invisible, struggling, dismissed. A knock on the locker room door. Dr. Bennett, your brother is here. Jacob, in remission. His cancer treatment successful thanks to Nikolai's intervention. Maya walked into the hallway. Jacob stood there, thin still, but healthy, alive, holding flowers. Thought you might want these for your first day back, he said, grinning. Maya hugged him so tightly he laughed. Can't breathe, Maya. Good. Get used to it. Elena walked into Maya's clinic without assistance. No cane. No walker. No pain. She hugged Maya like family. You gave me my life back, Dorogea. You and your mother. 13 years apart, both angels. How are you feeling? Strong. Better than I've felt in years. Elena pulled an envelope from her purse. I wanted to show you this. I'm funding a scholarship program for medical professionals who've been wrongly displaced, so no one suffers what you suffered. Maya opened the envelope. The scholarship fund, $5 million. Enough to help dozens of doctors rebuild their careers. Elena, this is necessary. You showed me that invisible people matter most. Now I help make them visible again. They were taking things slowly. Coffee in the hospital cafeteria. Walks through snowy Portland streets. Building something genuine, not rushed. Today, Nikolai sat in the observation room, watching Maya perform her first surgery back. A patient with complex leg fractures similar to Elena's. He watched Maya's hands move with precision and confidence. Watched her teach the residents, guide the procedure, save another person's mobility. He whispered to himself, extraordinary. Maya still flinched slightly when hospital administrators in expensive suits entered conference rooms. Old trauma didn't disappear overnight, but now she didn't look away. She held their gaze, spoke her mind, trusted her expertise. Therapy was helping. Slowly, she was learning to trust institutions again. Investigator Chin stopped by Maya's office. Castellano's case uncovered a larger conspiracy. 14 doctors destroyed. 6 hospitals involved. We're reopening every case. Maya looked at Jacob, who nodded encouragingly. Maybe I can help them get their lives back, Maya said. The way Nikolai helped me, I was hoping you'd say that. Maya's journey from invisible waitress to unstoppable surgeon took 18 months and nearly cost her everything. But here's what I didn't tell you at the beginning. This is story number 47 in my Hidden Genius series. Drop below. What hidden skill do you have that would shock people who only see your job title? I read, have a comment. Your story might be next. Snow fell outside the window. Same Portland winter storm. Same diner. Same corner booth where Elena collapsed. But everything was different. Nikolai, Elena, Maya, and Jacob sat together for dinner. Elena insisted they return. This place saved my life. We honor it. Maya wore an elegant dress, not a uniform. She sat as a guest, not a server. Marcus brought their food personally. On the house, Dr. Bennett. Always. Maya looked around the diner, saw the floor where she made the choice that changed everything. The booth where she stabilized Elena's legs with metal brackets and duct tape. The storage room where she cried, terrified of exposure. Nikolai took her hand across the table, squeezed gently. Elena raised her glass to invisible people who refuse to stay invisible, and to the courage to act when it matters most. They toasted together, the 4 of them, a family built not from blood, but from courage, sacrifice, and second chances. Outside, snow buried Portland in white. Inside, warmth and laughter and hope. Sometimes the person who saves your life is wearing an apron instead of scrubs. Sometimes the greatest expertise hides in plain sight. And sometimes love begins not with attraction, but with witnessing someone's truest self in a moment of impossible courage. Maya Bennett's hands served coffee for 3 years, but they never forgot how to heal. And in one 90-second decision on a diner floor, she reclaimed everything a corrupt system tried to steal. Her mother's words proved true. Healing hands are a gift from God, and Maya Bennett finally had the courage to use them without fear.